Hello, welcome once again to Jerry Builds Things. On this episode, I fixed the AC system in my current daily driver. I know recently I committed to a fairly decent sized fun project for my dually to get it back on the road, but I need to be a responsible adult, or at least act like a responsible adult, and take care of my daily driver because I don't want to ride around in the heat and the humidity if I can possibly avoid it. So stick around and we'll get into it. All right, so walk with me and I will tell you a story. So basically, the air conditioner quit working one season. So the first check that I made was to hook the gauges up to the system and check the pressure, and it had perfect pressure. Did a little bit of investigating and found that this guy right here, the AC compressor, locked up. Usually what that means, I guess, is the compressor fails and it could send shrapnel down into the system further along, which I guess the first point usually is the condenser, which is located behind here. We'll get to that in a little bit. I'm not an HVAC tech by any means, but I've just done a little bit of research and I'm gonna give it a shot and see if I can get the system running properly. All right, so my whole idea behind this right now is I'll remove the components that need to be replaced, the condenser, the AC compressor, and the accumulator. And while I have the units out and the lines are open, that's when I'm gonna back flush with AC solvent flush stuff and blow out all the old compressor oil, junk, residue, whatever's in there. So I'm gonna start with removing this cover. They do make like a plier removal tool for these clips. I haven't bought one yet. A couple of screwdrivers in hand. All right, there's that. I'm gonna take the grill off next. There's like a retaining clip. Oop, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, that's held in place by a retaining clip too. Well, I'm not there yet. Oh, I just heard something break. Well, that's what happens. Anyway, there's a retaining clip that holds the grill in on the ends here. It's like a spring clip. All right. That's probably an oil cooler, and this is power steering cooler. Either way, got to unbolt this one too. That'll probably separate once I gotta actually take the condenser out. All right, so these have to come out next. Now I gotta do the other side very gingerly so that I don't break anything this time. There we go, okay. All right, now there's some hardware down here and down here that I have to get out. All in an effort to free this condenser out of here and get it up out. Hopefully this bumper cover isn't gonna be too far in the way. Yeah, it is, but I'll just work around it. I'm not trying to break it. Yeah, this bumper is a little damaged, and because it is bent up, it actually is in the way of that bolt. I can get it with the wrench, it's just gonna take forever. Sometimes when you do jobs like this, just have to make sure that you don't have any dinner reservations or plans to do anything. Now if I could just get my hands in there to get the bolt out. There we go, one bolt. One over here goes a little faster because I can actually get the ratchet on it. Sometimes slow and steady as aggravating as it may be, wins the race. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast, right? At least sometimes. That's what I heard anyway. Whoop. Oh, nice. So when your parking light housing is cracked, drop it on the ground so that you finish it off. And this one under here. All right. All right, there's a couple of bolts behind here. That'll help get this whole bracket out of the way. This is definitely a time when like a flex head ratchet would really come in handy. I might go grab one later. That's one ratchet that I don't have. I think I'm gonna have to have my magnet on a stick at the ready. There we go. One more on this bracket. One thing I will say is when I get this condenser out, I'm gonna have a really good look at the radiator, and it's got a lot of junk stuck to it on the front. I'll be able to clean it out pretty well. All right, there's that one. All right, I'm gonna bust the lines free. So I did have this system evacuated. Its seal on there is a little crusty, but it's not too bad. And that's another thing, if you're doing work like this, it's worth getting an assortment of O-rings. Your vehicle will have like a seal kit. It just helps sometimes to be prepared for everything. Just do your research. Read, watch some videos. Of course, it helps to be familiar with this stuff too. Oh man, that lower one did not want to give up. The lower line is free and the upper line is free. All right, I have one more bolt holding the condenser in. Looks like for it to clear, I need to bust these brackets free. See what happens. Oh yeah. So just like I said, there's a bunch of crap in the radiator. Not a ton. Here, I'll get the camera in there, behind there. See, it's like a pretty good little mat. Generally speaking, you want to keep your radiator as clean as possible. So I want to clean that crap out of there, and I want to blow the stuff out from the inside of the engine compartment out. I'll wait until I get some of this stuff out of here. When I go to replace the AC compressor, I'm going to want to get the air box out of there, the fan shroud. Either hit it with a garden hose, even air, just something, just to blow this crap out of there. All right, while I still have some daylight left, I'm going to do a few more things on the way to taking off the AC compressor. I can get this whole air box out of here. Kind of want to hold this back with a bungee cord. Now the fan shroud. There's more clips like these down there that hold the fan shroud assembly together. Oh, all right. Upsy daisy. So now I got to take the fan off, or so the book says. And in all honesty, it's really in the way, so probably does have to come off. You use a big wrench or a fan clutch tool. I don't have the fan clutch tool, but I have an idea. That's the big nut that I have to remove to get the fan off of here. Otherwise, to get the fan by itself, I'd have to unbolt each bolt on the back side of it, whatever. So usually, I've seen some people have fan clutch tool and they put it in there and it impacts it off. I don't have it. I'm not gonna go get it. I have an idea though. I have an adjustable wrench. I strip the cushioning off of the handle. And I also have an air hammer with a notch tool on it so that I can grab it and it won't slip off. And I have a hunch that the impacts from this are gonna bust that thing free. Safety specs when you're doing this kind of stuff. And ear protection. Worked like a charm. Yeah, I can't remember what the fan looks like on the dually, but I don't think it was like, oh man, hopefully I didn't. Yeah, I gouged the radiator a little bit. Not really bad though. I'll be able to straighten those fins out. So when you're loosening a fan like this, pay attention to what you're doing and don't just talk to the camera because you'll forget and it'll fall off and it'll ding the radiator like I just did. Now I can get the lower part of the shroud because it's just hanging out down there now. All right. Now I got to take the belt off. This one's got some good life left in it, so. All right, so allegedly I have to get this plastic cover off of here too. 15 millimeter headed bolt, which seem massively overkill for a piece of plastic, but whatever. Yeah, I probably should have brought the air ratchet down here with me. Covered in oil, so that probably explains why they weren't rusted in place. Hey, so maybe if you got a leaky motor, don't go overboard trying to cure those leaks. I mean, they might be making disassembly on chassis components underneath the leaks easier down the line for you. All right, so this truck also has a skid plate. That one right there. I was just stuck to the rubber isolators that are back there. All right, so I already had the belt taken off of the AC compressor from before because when the compressor locked up, even though the clutch wasn't engaged, if you have a belt dragging on the motor like that you don't need, maybe a mile a gallon better on gas mileage, so I took the belt off since it wasn't working anyway. I have to take this line off of here. A proper size socket would probably help too. Yeah, that's one of them. Even though this was loose, I thought it was part of what was holding this block in, but it's not. Now I have plenty of room to get at the other one. See? Sometimes you have to just change your perception of a situation. I just have to try not to touch the camera here because I have it precariously balanced. I'm interested in taking this compressor apart later after I'm done with the job and see what the carnage looks like on the inside. And that is, whoop. That was that until I bumped the camera out of the way. This is a balancing situation. Oh, yeah, because I balanced the camera on the hose that I was removing. Balance the camera on the actual component that they're taking out so that it falls. So anyway, those lines are off. Now I have to find the electrical connector. Somebody's done some work on this before because it is just zip tied. And as much as I'd love them to be, zip ties are not factory, usually. This connector down here, and it looks like either side of it has these little wings on it, and I gotta pry them up. There's one side, and then let's see if I can get the other side. There it goes. That's disconnected. All right, so here is the new compressor. The way it is in the engine, with the ports up at an angle like that. So the bolts you can see are left to right. A bolt on that thing up there, a bolt up here, and then there's two bolts there and there underneath. All right, so let's get to it. All right, so I think I'm gonna bust these free first. There's the other one. All right, so just gotta get these two bolts. Can't get in there with a ratchet, I gotta get it with this. Wow. All right, just about got this bolt out. All right, that one comes out. I mean, it's free. It comes out with the compressor. All right, so I moved the steering over. I can get a wrench in here. I can just get that bolt. Really, I think oh my God. Easiest way to do this is to take the motor out of the vehicle. And before anybody pipes up, no, I get it. This ain't even that bad of a job. I've done plenty where I can't even see what I'm working on. I just have to go by feel. Holy cow. There. All right. Fine. Oh, thank God. Okay. Both the lower ones are out. All right, so I got the bottom bolts out now. I should be able to just get these other two remaining bolts out. So pop those out and then the compressor should come out. I say should because I've been here before. Never count all your chickens before they've hatched, especially with automotive stuff. All right, there's one. Do the other one. Oh yeah, keeping in mind that there is a bolt in there. It's gonna come with the compressor. Okay, there it is. Just released it. Not too bad. At this point, got the compressor out of the vehicle. There's that bolt that I gotta remember has to go into it before you put it in there, because otherwise you're not gonna be able to put the bolt in when you position that in place. So you take that compressor or whatever component you're working on, and you take the new thing and you put them next to each other and you look at it. This is facing that way, this is facing that way. Here, 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 here. The brackets look the same. The built-in mounting brackets. Connector, it's the same. Belt, number of ribs. You can even go so far as to measure the OD of the pulley there. This could be your oh crap moment, or modify that with whatever expletive is your favorite. Just helps to get a good visual on it way ahead of time. I looked at this closely when it was in the vehicle and saw the configuration so that when I was ordering the part, I knew that it was at least visually the same part. Year, make, and model and application, that's one thing, but there's been a few times where you select what you think is the right part and it's a completely different design, or there's a mounting boss that's different or whatever. Just try to get eyeballs on everything when you're doing this stuff. Other than that, these are the same, and I just move on from here. All right, next I want to get the accumulator off of here. I'm gonna bust this free first. Then once I get all the stuff totally unbolted, I'll be able to flush the lines out. Moving right along, get these two guys off of here too. Need an extension. Another thing I like to do is, if there's a piece of hardware on that I am not removing, and I took a nut off of the bolt, and the bolt is what, or a stud is gonna stay in the block or stay on the car, just take the old component off, thread the old nut back on there, just a few turns so it stays there. All right, take the connector off. There's a bolt here that holds this little strap that holds it on the firewall. Looks like a 10 mil. Just threading that back on that stud for now so I don't lose it. This accumulator should just come right out of here, yeah. Now this thing has like an insulation jacket, and I'm going to transfer that over to the new one because the new one does not have that on it. All right, I'm going to take this bracket off of here. Take the jacket off, and just like I did with the compressor, just check to make sure that it looks like the same configuration. The clocking of the fittings is important. This electrical connector or sensor goes in the same location. And that's another thing. I'm going to transfer that switch over to the other one. There was a seal on there that started coming up with this thing when I was taking it off, and it got pretty chewed up. So if this new one doesn't have one on it, then we'll have to put one on it. Oh, it's a Schrader valve. So it actually just depresses a Schrader valve. And the new one does have an O-ring on it. Before I put this on that new O-ring, the O-ring's dry, I'm going to put a little bit of compressor oil on it. Seeing as how it's an O-ring seal and it's a Schrader valve, it won't take very much to cinch that down. Bottom it out and then maybe give it a little extra with the wrench. That's about it. Also transfer the retaining nut on this stud over to the new one. Sometimes these accumulators don't have studs in them, so you have to transfer the old stud. This one does, and it's kind of in there loose. So I'm gonna get the right size socket and then crank that down a little bit to seat it. I don't want it to come loose. Just a little something extra, just a little bit. It's going into aluminum, so it won't take much to seat it a little bit, but it also won't take much to strip it out, so don't go crazy. Now I just want to transfer the jacketing. I think this was the part that, yeah, that went to there, that went there. There's a hole in the bottom of this thing back here. I don't know why, but either way. Try to be gentle with this thing. You don't want to ruin this. If you don't have it on there, it could reduce the efficiency of your AC system. Put the screw back in there. Right now I'm just going to go and leave that kind of loose because I don't know exactly how it was clocked. Thread that nut back on there. So now it's time to flush the system out. There's a little screen in here called the orifice tube. Basically got to take it out, replace it with a new one. Best to use a line wrench on both sides of the connections here, but I don't have a line wrench big enough to hold this side of it, which is really the most important one. It's aluminum, so it's easily rounded. Let's get this out of here because I'm not using that. Oh, boy. Need some more leverage. Wedge that on there. There it goes. Man, it's almost feels like it's cross-threaded. Holy cow. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that thing, but it is. There's pieces of aluminum coming out of that fitting now. Whew. Wow. That was something else. Yeah, there's a bunch of corrosion on that line. Well, now we get to see how much crap is in the orifice tube. Man. Yeah, I have a feeling that this thing is plugged up with all kinds of garbage. Which is good. I mean, that's what you want this thing to do. Catch all the garbage. Oh, yeah, cool. It broke off. All right. I think I'm going to take the line out so I can get a better crack at it and extract that tube. And there's a little plastic clip holding the line onto the fender right down here, probably out of view of the camera. And then fish this line out. Here it is. So this is what the new orifice tube looks like. It's like a filter screen. And it goes down inside here and just sits in there. So, yeah, I'm not sure about this because the thread on that line is mangled. I don't know, somebody did some work on this before and I think they cross-threaded it to start with and probably just drove it home anyway. But the orifice tube is down in there. The tip of it broke off. So I'm gonna try to extract it and then see if I can dress those threads up, but I'm not holding out a ton of hope for this line. So we'll see what happens. The end of that orifice tube already broke off. So I'm gonna try to grab the steel core of it and really try to get it out. And just the steel core came out. Or brass core, or whatever it is. It's pretty well jammed in there. So I think this line is gonna be junk. All right, so fast forward to several minutes later. Went to the parts store, on bicycle, mind you. Picked up a new line, and let's get this installed. Okay, now since I have the replacement liquid line, I have everything that I need to start installing. But before I do that, since I have all the lines open and accessible, the flow direction of the refrigerant basically goes from the compressor to the condenser, comes out of the condenser, it goes into this port here, it goes into the evaporator in the dash, comes out of here, goes into the accumulator, then it goes from the accumulator in this line back to the compressor. Before the entire charge goes to this evaporator in here, that's where that Y pipe was, and it branches off and it attaches here and goes to the the evaporator in the rear. So half goes up here, half goes down here. And I think that when I flush this thing out, I want to go in the opposite direction. So where it would come out here into the accumulator, I'm gonna flush it that way to back flush it, and it should drain out here. I want to make sure that I flush out all the old compressor oil and then any dirt that might be in the system. I want to give this system the best chance of surviving as long as possible after I put it all together. It's still a little backwoods how I'm doing it. Not a professional environment, but it is what it is. Instead of just having a whole bunch of junk come out of the wall just right here, I'm going to take part of the old liquid line that'll bolt on there like that. I might actually just cut this tube off here since this is the old tube and attach a rubber line down to the ground to something to drain into. Here's the other part of that line. I want to lop this one off. There's that line. All right, so I think I'm gonna do the fitting on the firewall first. So that would be the evaporator for the front. All right, so I found that I have some clear hose, which works perfectly because it actually fits that line size. I don't even have to put a hose clamp on it or anything. Oil pan down here that's gonna catch the crap. Fill up my flush can with solvent, drag an air line over here and get started. All right, we are pressurized. Hang the solvent tank from a hose or something. Start flushing it through and seeing what comes out of the clear hose. And since I didn't have the line secured, I just splashed garbage all over the ground. I think the name of the game with this, since I don't have an incredibly large air compressor, is going to be blow it out, keep going until the air pressure or the air compressor kicks on, then stop, let it charge back up, then refill the can with another pint. By that time, the air compressor is charged up, blow it out with that pint. You want to flush it 2 or 3 times, so probably do that a total of 3 times for the front and then 3 times for the rear, and then blow it out 2 or 3 more times, full air charge, no solvent, until it starts blowing dry, because you want to get every last little bit of that solvent out of there. So I'm going to refill the can again and do it again. All right, now this is actually the 3rd flush for the front evaporator. Keep in mind you want to wear safety glasses. You probably want to make sure you're in a ventilated area because the solvent that you have to use is pretty solvent and you don't want to be breathing it in. There, the air pressure or the air compressor kicked back on. I'm gonna let that recharge first, and then when it shuts off, then I'm gonna send some air back through here again as like a final dry out and see what it looks like. All right, so I'm gonna let it blow through one more time. There's nothing coming out of that. So I'm gonna let it go until it kicks off the low pressure switch on the air compressor first though, and consider this side good. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna fill this thing up again and do the rear evaporator. All right, I'm gonna get this set up to start blowing through the other side, or the rear condenser or evaporator. I will never like not invert those names. Or flush tube. I'll put it onto the bottom. So we're gonna blow through what would be coming out. We're gonna blow through here, and to single out, I'm gonna take this Y connection apart, and then of course all these connections that I'm taking apart and I'm getting access to, if they have O-rings or seals or whatever, I'm going to replace those before I slap it all back together. All right, there's that line. So I'm going to blow through this, and it's going to evacuate through here. Oh, I can take this whole line out. In fact, I'm going to flush this one out too before I put it back together, because no doubt there's leftover old oil in there too. Attach the exit tube. Pressure on, ready to flush. Okay, back to the assembly slash disassembly slash welding slash snack table. The rear evaporator. There's the expansion valve that was stopping the flow when I was trying to flush the thing out. I didn't realize that there's an expansion valve only in the rear, not in the front. I have the new valve to replace this one. So yeah, the game plan is remove this, flush out the evaporator completely, install the new expansion valve with, I think it's got a filter screen in it as well. So the new one should have that, I think. Before I go to reinstall this, I'll clean up these mounting surfaces, replace the O-rings on the lines leading to the back, and flush out those lines as well. And then bolt the whole thing together. I'm gonna hose it down with some penetrating oil. The number one choice of penetrating oil for me is Croyle. If you know, you know. This is what I have on hand though. It works decent. At least Croyle is more expensive, so it makes you feel like it's doing more. Maybe. So I'm gonna let that sit for a little while and soak in, and I'll come back to it. All right, so it's been a little more than, or a little less than 24 hours. I'm about to see what the fruit of my non-labor was. Let's get this one first. That was beautiful. I mean, honestly, that side wasn't too bad. Please cooperate. Please. Since I'm changing out this expansion valve and grip it by the expansion valve so that I'm turning it against the vise, I'm gonna try. Since all these lines are aluminum, you can bend them out of the way within reason. Don't get carried away. I mean, you want to kink the line, but you can usually move them where you want them if you have to influence one out of the way of something. I don't want to catch this. I just want to grab this thing by here, just so that I have a good solid spot to grip this thing so that I can really put some good torque to that corroded nut. Really don't want to have to buy another condenser or evaporator if I don't have to. Who would? Let's see what happens. Maybe. I don't have a line wrench that big. I was gonna say maybe I should put a line wrench on it, but this isn't anywhere near big enough. So I'm just gonna go with this wonderful adjustable. And it moves. As crappy as this thing looks, it's not moving the best, but it's moving a lot better than that other liquid line coming from the condenser. That thing was trashed. I knew I was in trouble with that one. This is salvageable. This is workable. This is ugly, but it'll work. Successage. All right, I'm just gonna flush the rest of it out. Make sure when you do this stuff, if you do stuff like this, do it outside. Collect the solvent in a container, wear eye protection, and preferably a respirator. Another thing that I'm gonna do is get some Scotch-Brite on these faces. This rests on the floor in the back, and the AC lines from the front come up and they go to the back and they go up through the floor. And those lines coming in have a boss on them, and that rubber on steel washers are on there, and they seat on here. And you want to have a good clean surface. And these are pretty corroded. So I'm hitting them with just a piece of Scotch-Brite. And if you're going to do that, you probably can see from there, Scotch-Brite material gets down in there. So I'm going to blow this out again with solvent. So if you're going to do that, do it before you flush it out with solvent, or you're going to have to flush it out again. Then I'm going to go through the whole truck and look at all the lines and look at all the sealing surfaces, and just if they need to be touched up with Scotch-Brite, I'll do that now. And then I'll flush everything back out. So don't do what I did and do things not in the right order. Unless you like wasting time and money on extra solvent. To each their own. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Alright, so I got the rear evaporator flushed out. now I'm doing the lines that come up through the floor here in the back. Anyway, there's a big line. I got the smaller line cleaned out. All right, so just want to get that corrosion off of there, because I mean, you could put a nice new seal on there if you want, and if your sealing surface is trash, then it's not going to seal anyway. Back to the drawing board, or welding table, or workbench, or multi-table, or whatever you want to call this. Now the exciting part for me begins. I get to start putting things back together and wrapping this project up. This thing has to go back. I need to put the new expansion valve on it. It has 2 O-rings that fit in it. There. Spread them all out. See what we're working with here. All right, there's the first one. Set that off to the side because you don't want to install it dry. I want to put some compressor oil on it first. And then the other one is going to be, I don't know what happened to the old one. It's probably, oh, nah, it was on the line. I don't think I threw it away. I think I still have it on the cart. Yeah, I probably tossed it in the garbage can. Don't usually like throwing components like this away until, yep, there it is in the garbage can. I don't usually like to throw this stuff away because I want to hold on to everything until I'm totally done with the job and everything's fine. So yeah, this one, it ain't that one. Nope, that's too small. We're looking for a bowl of porridge that is just right. Ah, there was one still in the bag. That's the one. All right, yeah, that fits. All right, let's get a little bit of compressor oil. I love it when an evaporator comes together. All right. O-ring is seated. The only thing I was worried about in this whole thing really was the condition of the nut on this evaporator. It's just not happy going on there. I think what I'm going to do is similar to what I did last time. I'm going to lock this in the vise, but I'm not going to grip it by here this time. I'm going to grip it by the nut and try to rotate the expansion valve because it's just getting too awkward and the thing wants to twist out of my hands. So let's try that. Let's do this as carefully as possible. And for those of you that might be wondering, this in the background, this is homemade weed killer. Well, it's really vegetation killer. It's vinegar and salt, basically, and a little bit of dish soap to keep the stuff stuck to the leaves. I use this instead of like Roundup. So much cheaper, and it works bonkers good. I was just sick and tired of buying expensive weed killer all the time, and I really didn't feel totally good about using it all the time because I know it's poison, man. All right. I got a little bit of a crank out of it. Let's reposition and go for a little more. I know you probably shouldn't have to do this with a brand new one. It's got to be the corrosion that's in the nut. I mean, I really tried to clean that nut out, but I really just need it to tighten and press against that O-ring. Still got a little more to go. All right, it's basically there. So now at this point, I'm going to attach the other one, which wasn't anywhere near of a problem. I'm going to influence this aluminum line back to where it should be and screw this line together. This one's not going to be a big deal. You want to make it tight. You don't have to kill it because it's an O-ring that you're just holding in position. Now that that is good, I'm going to give the other one a final crank if it doesn't want to twist out of position on me like it did before. There. I'm not even going to check it now. I know I'm done. So I'm ready to install this thing. I neglected to show the disassembly of this back there because I was in the middle of it and it was raining outside when I was trying to do it. So I'll be able to go more in depth on how I got this thing out without taking the case out. Let's go do that next. So I'm not a gambling man, but if I was, I would gamble that the factory service manual wants you to take this whole case out. I've been there, done that. Or I didn't want to do that this time if I didn't have to. I unbolted basically the top of the case half. It's actually unassumingly heavy because it has the blower motor. I popped out all the little 5.5 millimeter screw, or well, they're 5.5 millimeter socket you use to get them out. All those little screws, took them out, and although it didn't want to come out at first, this popped off of here. Once you get the connectors off of it, and there's one of those actuators that you have to remove, and then lo and behold, this was sitting in this space right here. It was like wedged in place, and I already had the lines underneath unbolted. Basically, I just stretched the plastic up and tilted the thing out this way, and it popped out. The only caveat is this fell out while I was doing that, so I gotta figure out exactly what position this thing was. I'll look for an exploded parts diagram and see if I can figure it out. So I looked at it and I took a few minutes and realized that the actuator that bolts on right here, however, whatever configuration, this is actually the door that the actuator moves, as evidenced by it fits in the slot in the actuator. So at any rate, when I go to put this thing back together, I have to probably have this lined up when I put it together. So now I'm just going to go ahead and install the evaporator. And I'm just kind of try to mimic the way that I had removed it. I had really pried this case up. I'm going to move the camera over here so you can see what I'm doing. That's a way better view. So I'm going to try to do the famous or infamous installation is the reverse of removal. There's part of it, see? Starting to cooperate. I basically just have to bend that case up until everything starts sliding in. All right, so it's pretty much just trying to get this in now. I'm gonna move the camera back over here so I can get in that spot. Okay, so I see that there's a little cutout that actually fits this profile, so it is closer to fitting in there than it might look like. And then the other hurdle is just prying the plastic up here. Let's see how far we can push this thing without it breaking. Oh, well, it just cracked, but in the interest of science and exploration, I'm not really worried about that. That can be repaired. It is in. I did crack the housing. I'll bring you over there so you can see it. I cracked the housing right here. However, there is this channel that the upper case half fits into. So when I'm putting it back together, see, I just had it pop back into place. The upper case half, when I bolt that thing into position, that'll follow that, and then I could get some duct tape, like the aluminum kind, and that'll seal up, no problem. Small price to pay. I mean, I did get a little overzealous with that. I could have probably, if I got the heat gun on it and softened it up just a little bit, it would probably have been a little bit more pliable. But now this thing is in. No case removal necessary. I didn't have to unbolt the heater lines and deal with that whole situation because the quick connects are, I don't want to mess with the GM quick connects if I don't have to because they have a penchant for breaking. So at any rate, the evaporator is in. Now it's time to start bolting everything back together. All right, first and foremost, I'm going to put this in first so I don't forget it. Just make sure I line this up properly. See, you have to slightly suspend this door. That little door that was in there, you have to raise it up slightly because if you just let it hang in there, it lays against one of the features inside this case and it interferes. It's in the proper spot because the little end moves. And I can hear it moving freely in there. So now it's just lining up the case half properly and then screw everything back together. No, that's it. I'm not sending any of these home until I know that all the bolts are in the right locations, or sometimes you have to wait to bolt something in until you get a wire clip in place or whatever, then you can't get to it or whatever. So I'm just making sure that I have all the right things going on here. Let's put this guy in first too. Yeah, that's it. And it nested right in there, so it's clocked correctly. It's another important part. These actuators have a history of crapping out, so I'm glad I learned where these two are. There's one here, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's another one that channels to the floor and to the ceiling over here. So I'm glad I saw what those are. Those are really easy to get to as compared to the ones that are in the front, especially the recirculation actuator in the front. That thing is a nightmare to get to. They really try to pin this thing in pretty good. Well, of course you want it to seal properly. They're basically just all around the perimeter of this case. Sometimes I gotta run the magnet on these things to hold a bolt in place so I can thread it into a hard to get at area, lest it be lost to the void. And then this, the blower resistor, I kept the bolts in the housings so I remembered what went there. Sometimes you're not sure, like all these screws ended up being the same length. Sometimes the screws will be similar on whatever assembly you're doing, and then like they'll all be the same thread size. There's a little bit of dirt on that. They'll all be the same thread size, but the lengths will be different because sometimes they have to go further in for whatever, or shorter, or whatever. So that's why I threaded those things in there, just in case they were a different size. I wasn't sure. Back when I was younger, I was better at bagging and tagging hardware for whatever project I was doing. I haven't really done that super lately, especially this project. So hopefully it doesn't bite me in the butt later, where I'm trying to figure out where the heck the hardware went. It's not a ton of different hardware, and it's pretty straightforward, so I don't think I'll run into that problem. But alright, so this is for that actuator. This thing is for... that is not the blower motor. Oh, this is for the cigarette lighter on the body panel. This is for the blower motor. That's in. This wire clip goes here. This wire clip goes over here, if it even wants to go in, kinda. These things started breaking when I was taking them out. I wasn't too super worried about it. So, I got all the hardware in, and I'm just gonna drive all the hardware home now. Going around the perimeter. Yeah, I've never taken this part of the truck apart before. It's pretty cool. I like taking things apart, seeing how they work. So this really took the mystery out of all the stuff that was going on. Back when I first got this truck, I actually, as dumb as it sounds, I had no idea that like the rear AC was a totally different unit in the back. I just assumed that it was a bigger compressor up front and a bigger evaporator in the front, and it just like split the duty between the front and the back with all that gear. I had no idea that it actually had a separate auxiliary setup. I mean, it makes sense now to me. All right, that is it. I promise. I'm done. I'm gonna stop looking at it before I find something else. All right, so I found the right size seals. They're this style. You can see that. They're the one that, it's like a metal ring and it's got rubber on the inside. And it seals against the mating surfaces of this block thing, and then that has a little spot face on it for the ring to sit in. Coated them generously with compressor oil. Now I'm going to install them and bolt them in and be done with this side of it. And then there's a nut that falls back down when I try to thread it on. And there's the little one you'll probably be able to see. And that just bolts in place. I can't remember. I don't think I videoed taking this or unbolting this. I feel like there might have been a cushion or something to seal this, because this is just, there's a little bit of a seal up there, but it's basically just open into the case underneath the body. So I might actually get a little bit of silicone or great stuff or something. I was living in California, might not be a problem, but we get nasty winters with salt spray, and I can see that making its way up in there. I'm just gonna tighten this pretty good and consider that done. And I'm gonna move to the front now. I already installed the AC compressor. Now I'm gonna move on to the condenser. And as I mentioned before, I wanted to clean out that schmutz that was behind here, and I just vacuumed it out. It came out pretty easy. I used a little brush attachment. All right, here's the little packet of studs. And now, the fun of manhandling that thing into place. These tabs go towards the bottom, I believe. No, they face up. Let me run a bungee cord on that to pull it down and keep it out of my way so I'm not fighting it. Maybe do it this way. That's something. Let's see what we can do here. When you're doing this, just be super careful. You do not want to ding this thing. Let's face it, you're gonna ding it. You want to ding it as little as possible, I should say. You know what? See, I kind of screwed those. I smashed some fins already. All right, well, if that's the worst, if that's the only, then I'm doing good. I'm going to get this side in first because this has to clear around here first. All right, that one's going to want to fall into the fins, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to secure that with a bungee cord too. All right, so more bungee cords, pulling everything away. Because I already was starting to damage the fins, and I don't have an extra pair of hands to help me on this right now. So let's see how I can finagle this thing in here. I gotta try to get this thing past. Oop. What am I hung up on? Oh, down there. Okay. Okay. I think it's in. Yes, I do believe it is in. All right. So I lubed up the connection O-rings and installed them. Now I'm just bolting on the connections. All right, I figured out the locations for some of these screws. Really shot myself in the foot this time by not bagging and tagging the hardware like I normally do. I literally have like a box of sandwich baggies and tags and labels and things that I use to do this, and I just got ahead of myself and forgot to do that. All right. I know these pieces of hardware go here, so I'm going to do the ones that I know, and I'll figure out what's left over. And one that goes there. It's the one that I probably pulled up the bumper cover to access. Yeah. The only problem is I don't know what bolt it is. Let's see. Not having these bolts organized after a teardown like this is actually embarrassing. All right, those two are in. All right, now let's see what else we have left. Well, I skipped ahead a little bit. This is all just reverse of the removal. I forgot to turn the camera back on after a little delay. And that is the grill. All right, next I'm going to install the accumulator and the liquid line to the firewall. I have the washer for the accumulator to the firewall mount ready to go here. So I think I'm gonna do that one first. Oh yeah, it's on there, and then the other one is going on to the line connection. That one's ready to go. And then there's a nut that holds the mounting band. Looks to be a 10 millimeter. Then the evaporator connection is a 13 mil. Yeah. Once again, before I installed it, I lubed up the O-ring. Now the new liquid line. It has a washer on it that I should have taken off before I put it in here because I need to lube that. And that washer does not want to come off. Need to get a screwdriver on it. Man. All right, got that one off. Now I gotta just lube it. Alright, there's that line. Secure it. Another washer. And the liquid line leading to the rear. Now, I believe the compressor connections, because I think that's all I have left. Yeah, I have this hose that goes from here to the compressor, and then the other discharge from the, yeah, okay. This is coming from the back. This plugs into this manifold. 2 more big washers there. Yeah, and before I go any further, I should mention that instead of doing a 50-50 split on the compressor oil, total system capacity in this particular truck with rear air conditioning option is 11 ounces of PAG 46. The compressor comes pre-charged with 7.1, so the remaining 4 in this particular vehicle, I have an accumulator, so I put the remaining 4 ounces in the accumulator. So that's where I'm at. If it was wrong, I'm gonna find out. Let me get those other washers rounded up and lubed up and start installing those now. All right, so I'm just gonna finish up all the connections, starting with this one coming from the rear, going to the T or Y or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I guess it'd be a Y. That goes back into the compressor. All right, the Y connection is done. Now let me take this to the compressor. Actually, this one's gonna block. Now I remember. The lower line goes first because this line covers it up. Ooh, I never got a good look at this line to see if the seal was, or the seal surface is corroded. No, actually it's not bad. So I'm just gonna lube up a seal and put it on there. Oh no, actually, it's a bolt, not a stud. One of these bolts. So this is the discharge line out of the compressor that I'm bolting on right now. right, now for the suction line. The seal is on it and it is lubed up. All right, then the suction line coming from the accumulator. There's a nut somewhere. It's here somewhere on the bench. All right, there's that. And so I think all the lines are now connected, I believe. Okay, phase 193 is finished. Time to move on. All right, I got all the mundane stuff out of the way. I need to run the truck while I'm charging the AC system, so I put in the airbox, the fan shroud, the belts, all that stuff. And while I was underneath bolting in the AC compressor, I got the skid plate and the front skid plate plastic thing. So I pumped down some vacuum, 15-20 minutes, shut it off, and let it sit for about an hour, and it was still holding vacuum, so I'm good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and kick this thing back on, start pulling vacuum for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, because it's a big system. Some people would probably say pull it for 2 hours, I don't know. So I'm gonna pull vacuum on this, and then after that, fill it up with refrigerant. Start this thing back on, and go find something to do for an hour. All right, it's been pumping for over an hour now. We're at good vacuum. Time to shut this off. Shut the vacuum off. Time to add refrigerant. All right, now I need to purge the line, get the air out. All right, we're good. So now I'm gonna start the truck, turn on the air conditioning, start adding refrigerant. All right, so I just hooked up the last can. Should be topping it off now. High side pressure should really start coming in. Slowly but surely. I mean, well, once I'm done with this final can, that's gonna be it. Ambient temperature chart states that the high side should be 135 to 155, and the low side should be 25 to 35. And the low side's reading 40, but the high side's reading dead on 150. And there's no more liquid coming out of this can. So I am done. Close everything off. I forgot that the AC system hisses for a few seconds after you shut it off anyway. So I am going to consider this job done. The real test will be when it warms up later and see if that cold air holds out. All right, time to take it for a road test. All right, took it for a road test. Success. Ice cold air, finally. I'm happy. I'm also over it. I'm glad that it's done. Now I can start moving on that thing. So I'm happy. It wasn't too bad of a job. It was just a lot. I'm really glad this is over with. I'm looking forward to moving on to the next project. If you thought this video was cool, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Jerry Builds Things.